if the marriage is not working, lives can, or partners can, because what constitutes the marriage is two people.
By the time a party walks into a divorce lawyer's office, more often than not, they've gotten to a point where the marriage cannot be saved.
Where we differ is communicating to children what is actually happening.
For some reason, the society believes that if you hang out with a divorced woman, you'll also get divorced. As a society, we need to get to a place where we no longer stigmatize women for choosing themselves.
Statistically, you'll find couples that were married and they divorced and they married again. Chances of that marriage breaking again is higher than it was before.
Even as a stay-at-home mom, the value that you're bringing to that family, it should be taken into account.
Our intention in all means is to actually see you happy, and that happiness trickles to the family unit. So seek help. My name is Rachel. I'm a counseling psychology, a mother, a wife by desire, a mother by the honor of bringing forth children, and I'm a singer by passion. So I sing in the bathroom. Yes.
So hi, Rachel.
Hi.
My name is Veronica Kimiti.
Pleasure.
A pleasure to meet you. I'm an advocate, currently 10 years plus, post-admission experience.
Wow.
I run my own firm here in Nairobi, Kimiti and Associates, where we deal with, one of our focus areas is family law.
Oh, wow.
On a personal level, yes, I'm a wife,
Wow.
a mother, and coincidentally, I'm also a singer.
Oh.
I was once a lead singer in a band, but we can talk more about that later.
Happy Mother's Day belated.
Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Happy Mother's Day, ladies.
Thank you.
Some marriages cannot be saved.
Looking at marriage, I'm looking at it from a place of an institution. So can it be served or saved? Debatable, for sure. But lives can. If the marriage is not working, lives can, or partners can. Because what constitutes the marriage is two people. And if they're not in a place of agreement, or they don't agree on the basic principle that allowed them to actually sit down and say, let's do this, we look at now saving their own lives such that they don't get into depression, or they still maintain their functionality despite the relationship not being functional. Yeah.
I'll give the typical legal answer and say it depends. So I'd start off by saying that by the time a party walks into a divorce lawyer's office, more often than not, they've gotten to a point where the marriage cannot be saved in most instances. By the time someone is walking through my office door, they've already made up their mind and their marriage is not redeemable. So whether or not it can be saved, I think saving the marriage would fall under your realm in terms of therapy. But for me, my role would be now to assist a party who would want to go through the divorce process and help them navigate through that process by first and foremost ensuring that their rights are protected. Yes, that would be my response to.
I may not be denying your clients, but maybe some don't have an idea of what are some of the saving avenue, or some of the avenue that they can seek help.
So actually, as I'd mentioned earlier, for me, one of the main things that I strive to do as a divorce lawyer is to ensure that the parties who appear before me are very sure of
The
their decision.
certainty.
Yes, one of the first questions I'll ask any party approaching me to file for divorce is, have you tried other avenues to resolve
the
dispute? So have you gone for therapy? Have you tried meeting with the families? If there are people who attend church, have you tried
spiritual
this with your pastors? So for me, that's one of the main that's one of the first questions that I'll ask. Have you tried resolving this? So that by the time you're coming or you want to file the petition, have you accessed or have you tried all the other avenues before now filing the petition before court?
I've had instances where they come because they're angry. And then after some time, either they cool or they have a change of mind. So I think the state to which one is seeking for that finality, it's emotional. It's an emotional drive into it.
I agree. And I also give my clients time. Like, I'll tell you, we don't have to file this right now. Fine, you come to my office or we'll have a phone conversation, a first interaction, and you'll give me all the grounds upon which you want to file the petition. But I won't push for us to file this immediately. There's actually a client who I told her, this is coming from you. I'm not the one who's pushing this on you. So if you need time to think these things through, I have no problem with that. So if you're coming back 6 months down the line, I'll have no issue.
You've had
as long as you've had time and you're sure that this is the approach that you want to take.
Okay.
There's another instance where I even had a meeting with both parties because I felt it was important. One party had suggested a meeting, or rather the other party had suggested a meeting and my client wasn't sure whether that would be the right thing. I think by that point we'd filed the petition, but it had not yet come up for hearing. So we had the opportunity to just have a meeting and my client made it clear that for her, she wasn't ready to
change
the issue or try to reconcile.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So in as much as we divorce lawyers are made out to be the bad guys pushing for divorce, most of us, I'm not saying all of us, but most of us would actually want to make sure that our client is in the right frame of mind, number one, and number two, that this is something that they've arrived at voluntarily and it's something that they feel that they are ready to go through with. Yes.
Okay.
Prenups are a sign that you're preparing to fail.
Totally disagree. In an African culture, I think it's new. It's new view where people are now agreeing to actually look at what do I have before I engage in marriage. But is it a setup that you're setting your marriage to fail? No. It's the same way we come clean and actually say I had an ex. The ex had a baby.
Yeah.
Am I setting myself up for failure? No. It's just I'm putting all my cards on the table. And finances, assets become very critical when it comes to marriage and separation or divorce of the same. And actually, if you look at the depth of why people hurt so deeply, I'm not saying emotions or personal feelings are not hurtful, but that pain has an incorporation with assets, property, either a project they did together, business that was done together, but there was no prior arrangement on how do we do it. I will look at it as a contract, the way you say I will not start an employment without a contract. Does it mean I don't trust my employer? I totally do. Does my employer doesn't trust me that I can deliver? They have looked at the qualification. I did the interview. I qualify. But the transparency of coming and saying, this is what we're offering. Do you want it? Do you not? These are the terms of engagement in this relationship. This is what we agree on. So I don't see it as a setup. Lack of knowledge is interpreted as you don't trust me.
I totally agree. I'm actually happy that that's your take on that particular question, because even the law establishing prenups in Kenya recognizes that a marriage relationship is more or less a contractual kind of relationship. So a prenup primarily provides for marriage assets. How do we deal with these assets? So it's an opportunity for the parties to, as you said, come clean, establish that these are the assets I have prior to this marriage. And the prenup also helps to establish, so what happens to these assets in the event of divorce. So yeah, it's not setting the parties are not setting themselves up for failure. Yeah, but again, planning to fail is failing to plan.
It's
Failing
already
to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah, I've also seen families that have really benefited from it, especially the children, where the first marriage did not go well, but there was a prenup before they got into the second marriage, and the assets that the kids have been assigned for were not interfered with the next. And unfortunately, the other one passed on. So you see, there'll be rankles of what happens after that. So with the prenup, I've seen it safeguard family, especially with the blended kind of setup. Those are just a case that I've been able to encounter with, but it doesn't mean you're setting up for failure in any way.
Yes. And to add further to that, a prenup is actually a wealth protection tool. So it's the same way you'd set up a trust, to a family trust to protect your family assets. So it's just one of the avenues that parties can choose to use as a wealth protection tool. I would also like to point out that the court actually recognizes postnups as well. So not only prenups, which are agreements or contracts that you sign prior to the marriage, to the wedding, you can also
Do a postnup.
so that now after the marriage has already been solemnized, you can come back to the table and state, hey, these are the assets that I had prior to this marriage. This is how I'd want to deal with them. Yeah.
I think awareness is what, in an African setup, we are lacking in terms of how is it portrayed, how is it brought into the table, and also the sensitivity of the timing until which you have this conversation. If you're having this conversation way in your dating, it's well received, unlike I'm marrying you tomorrow, and that's when you're having a conversation about, so like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So even the timing of having that conversation.
Yeah. And as you said, it's an awareness thing, and you'll find that in most cases, high net worth individuals or families from a wealthy background, in most cases, they'll insist on any party who's joining the family through marriage, they'll have to sign a prenup. As I said, it's a wealth protection tool.
Totally agree.
Yes.
Divorce doesn't ruin children, conflict does.
Totally agree. Because the children have nothing to lose. They still have their mother, they still have their father. The only thing is that they're not either in the same setup as they were before. But I think where we differ is communicating to children what is actually happening. Because even if you don't tell them you're not in the same space, even when you're in the same space, conflicting had so much trauma impact on them than when you would say, daddy lives in East and mommy lives in West. So how it's handled, the process of how it's handled, and I've experienced clients who've gone through it peacefully and very well. Like we're planning to go our separate way amicably. How do we communicate to our children? Our children are 6 and 9. How do I? And they would come and have session with the kids and explain. You see the way you have differences with your friends in school? Mommy and daddy have their differences, but they'll not be staying together. But it doesn't mean they don't love you. Because when you leave the knowledge, children to interpret for themselves, they blame themselves. I think if I was not there, mommy and daddy will not have had to co-parent together or go through the conflict they're going through together. But we're able to explain to children that for sure, it's not their problem. It's not because of their existence that they have differences. They're the same way they have their own differences in their friends, and there are some they don't sit in the same spaces. They do understand. From now, explaining to children, understanding what does that dynamic change in their day-to-day life. One, dad will be living in this place and you can frequently visit or live with them depending with what you choose. Yes, you can be able to call or contact either of them. But now because of anger of that separation, most parents are angry. They're trying to bar one from the other. The communication or paint one parent as the fault maker or a bad one. So those are what we'll call conflict, but not the act of living separately or the act of parting ways, that we're no longer in a marriage agreement or we're not longer in a marriage relationship. So from where I see, it's conflict that has more trauma than the aspect of, actually I've had even adults actually saying, I wish my parent had separated instead of fighting every night,
day.
of conflicting, because the anger spill over to the kids, and kids are able to connect with the emotions. You've not been treated well by your partner, they will soak it in and they know, Mommy, are you sad? Have I made you sad? So those conflict actually, they're the one that brings more trauma than the act of saying they are divorced.
Okay. With that statement, I agree. Let me first start by saying that divorce, as far as the law is concerned, is both a social and a legal construct. On the legal part of the divorce process, it doesn't interfere with the family unit. At the end of the day, party A is still the father to these children, party B is still the mother. The divorce process does not nullify or negate the fact that this is still the father to this child. The only thing that divorce does is legally separate the union between the spouses. So at the beginning, they started off, if you procured a civil or a Christian marriage, you have to present that to the Register of Marriages. So it's on that basis, it becomes a legal union. So that when you're signing that certificate and it's being registered, that makes it legal. So in the same way that you went through that legal process, even as you're separating, that's when now divorce comes in, and you have to go through that process to legally separate or dissolve the union in the eyes of the law. But yeah, as far as the effect that it has on the children, as you said, it totally depends on how these two parties handle the divorce process and whether they let reason prevail or if
Emotions
descend to chaos. Yes.
More couples go to therapy to fix their partner and not themselves.
Quite relative. More is quite relative. There are some who come because they want to know themselves, either because someone has pointed out you get angry so quickly. You don't listen. So some of them are coming to get assessment. Is it correct that I'm a narcissist? Is it correct that I am angry? Is it correct? So from the cases I've handled, over 5,000 clients, the truth is most of them don't come because they are coming to fix their partner. There are cases that will come and say, yes, he is the problem, but very rare. Some will come because it has been insisted. They've called me, they've said me, is it true? Do you think am I that bad? And for sure, we go through the self-awareness, just helping the person get to understand how do you behave, what happens when you get this. And the truth be told, some of them are just dealing with triggers that they have experienced from their childhood experiences. So because no one told you that they have an impact, like for instance, you've experienced a drunkard dad, and maybe when you come in the evening, he will fight and batter everyone or cause chaos in the house. Then this one day your partner comes and they're drunk and they're calling you names, and the person bursts out into a reaction. Digging deeper than just looking at the reaction, help us get to know what their experiences before, what their triggers, and you're able to deal with the trigger. And when they heal, they come back and they're able to tell, I was just name called, but I had my own triggers as to why that happened. So most couples don't come because they're coming to fix others. From my experience, the few that I've had that have come to fix others, within the first assessment, I'm able to tell them, I think I will help you focus on you. And you focus on you. And most of the time we have a joint session, but then we split them such that everyone is able to deal with their issue. Then we come back together and look at the relationship. We can't look at a relationship when both of you are hurt in your various way. And when you now bring them together, you realize there is logic, there is sobriety, they're able to see things differently, they're able to reason together, and we can have a conversation. So do most couple come because they're fixing the others? Not from what I've experienced. Very few come to fix others.
I think that one was in your domain. It wasn't in the legal space.
But I've also experienced couples who will pull for divorce request because they want the other person to pull up their socks.
So they're using the divorce.
They're using the divorce as a threat. They're using divorce as a threat. So I've had instances where someone, this one has served me, I don't know what I am going to do. But they really didn't want to go through it.
The divorce process.
Yes, that's why they have come for therapy. But the person would not have come for therapy if the divorce card had not been pulled.
Okay.
Which is manipulation.
It is.
Kind of. The Kenyan divorce system is fault-based.
So I think I'll take that one. Yes. So currently the system that's in place in Kenya is that for you to be able to be granted a divorce, or for the court to be able to give a party the decree nisi and decree absolute, you have to show fault on the other side. So I know in most progressive jurisdictions, they have the no fault-based divorce where you can, if both parties agree, you can just consent and have the marriage dissolved. But in Kenya, currently, there was a recent decision by the Supreme Court where they upheld that provision, or that it maintained status quo, and we retained the system, the fault-based system. So the Marriage Act provides for grounds upon which you can base your petition, your divorce petition. So that it's not you just coming to court and saying, I want a divorce. You have to convince the court that there's a reason, or there are reasons why I want you to grant me this divorce. And for instance, just by way of example, if it's a Christian marriage, you can base your divorce, or one of the grounds you can use is adultery, cruelty, and the act has provided for both mental, financial cruelty, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cruelty towards the spouse or the petitioner. It can also be cruelty towards the children of the marriage. So it's not necessarily that your spouse is being cruel to you, as long as you can show that the spouse is either cruel to you or your children. That's a valid ground for basing your divorce petition on. There is irretrievable breakdown, and this is at the point where you demonstrate that the marriage has gotten to a point that it cannot be salvaged. So you just provide instances or reasons why you feel that you cannot reconcile. Some people demonstrate that they've gone for therapy, they've gone for counseling, the family has been involved. If it's the church, the pastors have been involved, but still they're not able to reconcile. So at that point, and then also the passage of time, it has to be justifiable. It's not you're saying you've tried to reconcile for 1 month, but for instance, if you've been living separate for 4 years, you've tried all these means. At that point, any reasonable court would look and say that this is not a marriage or a union that can be salvaged. So after filing the petition and presenting your case before court, now the court will, based on all that, the court will determine whether or not it will grant the decree nisi and the decree absolute. There are instances where the court might decline. There are very few, but there are instances where the court might feel that the reasons provided are not sufficient. You've not sufficiently demonstrated that this union
is at fault.
There is sufficient fault on the other party, or that there is need to dissolve this union. So you find that it won't give an order saying that you have to stay together. You'll probably just leave estranged until you're able to provide
Evidence.
sufficient grounds upon which the court can now grant the divorce. But as I said, that's a very rare occurrence where the court will decline to grant the divorce.
Wow. So in this case, the court behaves like a prefect. They're marking scheme.
It will what the Supreme Court said is that there needs to be a preservation of the sanctity of marriage, or there needs to be some sort of preservation so that it doesn't end up being a case where people just
walk in and walk out.
Yeah, so that it just becomes a process that you can undergo. The same way you can apply for a DL or renew your DL, you can just walk into court and have your marriage dissolved. There has to be a process, and that's why it insisted on retaining the fault-based kind of system, so that you have to demonstrate that indeed this other party is at fault, or this is the reason why this marriage cannot be salvaged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheating is not a valid reason to get a divorce.
From a legal standpoint, I'd say that, again, it depends, because one of the grounds provided for under the Marriage Act is actually adultery, and that applies to both the civil and the Christian marriage. So cheating, yes, is a ground for divorce. Whether or not it's sufficient reason to file for divorce, I think I'd leave that up to the party who intends to file for divorce. Because again, at the end of the day, divorce is a very personal decision. It's a very personal journey. It's not something that you can impose on someone just because I hear that my friend's spouse has cheated on them. It's not upon me to now insist you have to divorce this person. So again, it's provided for under the law that one of the grounds you can rely upon is adultery. And again, just to clarify something, some courts insist that if you rely on adultery, then you have to involve the other party. So for instance, your spouse was cheating with person A.
Person A has
Include
to.
person A into the petition as a respondent. So that if you're providing evidence, whether it's photographic evidence, video evidence, screenshots of messages, then person A has to be involved. Because again,
the
you
consent
have
of information.
you have to get their side of the story as well. So some courts will insist that you bring this other party to court as a respondent. But yes, the law provides that adultery is one of the grounds that you can rely upon for filing a divorce petition.
From my end, I see all. Some want to, some don't. Some reconcile even after divorce. I mean, after cheating. So those standards are set by the client. So if they choose to actually forgive or heal from a cheat, then it's their basis. If they choose not to, they can't stand that. That's purely from a client's standards of measure. And also the level of healing, because the more you're hurt, the more you're inclined for not. The more you're healed, the more one is able to either excuse or forgive or walk. So it's totally based on the client deciding what they believe in or what they want. But as you've said, legally, is it a cause for? Yes, it is.
Religion romanticizes tolerating marriages that aren't working.
I don't think they totalize, as in they encourage. I think the same way they're trying to safeguard the unit of marriage is the same way the religion tried to safeguard that unit of marriage, either from a perspective of getting to safeguard children and both parties as children of God. So some have means of being able to help the couple be able to resolve their conflict, while others has a form of spirituality that covers the evil without sorting so it becomes like a wound that has been covered, and on the inside it keeps just oozing pus and all that. So I don't think they do. They're trying to safeguard the institution of marriage, but do they know how to? No. Especially because if you go with the wrong tools to fix a car, the truth be told, you may cause more damage instead of solving it. So I feel like religion or institutions that are faith-based are safeguarding, but with the wrong tools. Because when you send either a vicar or a pastor to do counseling to a couple, yet they are equipped theologically, not psychologically, to handle such, they're using the wrong tools. So what kind of advice will they give you? I'll pray for you. The Lord will come through for you. But the truth be told, He sends rain. But if you don't plant, there will be no harvest. So it's the wrong tools used in the wrong area. But I don't think they are condoning the aspect of tolerating the bad marriage or relationship. I would encourage, if they're able to employ psychologists, counselors to do their role. Like, for instance, if these cases are given to the pastors, just as you said, there is a hierarchy of escalation when it comes to marriage-related issue. And these people that were joined together in a marriage, in a church setup, they reach out to their best couple, or they reach out to the pastor. Pastors getting to know, do I direct these people to a counselor? Gives them a better place to actually get to evaluate. Are we tolerating each other, or have we solved the issue? Unlike praying for them, and I'm not saying I have nothing wrong. I'm not against prayers and covering it up as if it has been sorted and waiting for the Lord. The truth, he told, he uses people to even sort their problem. So directing them to the right people that have the solution would be of help. But tolerating, I don't think they stand in the pulpit and actually tell people, vumilia. No. The thing I've had mostly is pray. I'll ask, on top of praying, please take action. We are here to support those families. Our intention in all means is to actually see you happy, and that happiness trickles to the family unit. So seek help.
I don't think I have much to say on that.
Fair enough. Divorce brings shame on women, even if the marriage was abusive.
Again, I feel like that's an issue that is based on the society.
It's a societal view.
issue.
It's a societal view.
I don't think the law really discriminates against women who seek to procure a divorce.
No. The law doesn't, but society has an aspect of stigmatization for, even when they're introducing themselves, I'm a single lady, or I'm a divorced lady, or I have 3 children. The society seeks to get to know, who's the father? There are 3. Are they from the same father? Yeah. But I think it's because they can see, it's evident. Yeah, I wish men were walking around with pregnancy, then they can be able to actually explain to us, uliachwa, you're divorced, what happened? Then they will for men, they don't experience those questioning. So I think the shame comes from the kind of questions that the society point out to the ladies. Is it shameful? Case to case. There's some who will feel embarrassed about it. There's some who knows they've worked on themselves, they have healed the pain. So really it doesn't bring shame. In any case, they've been able to walk their head high, like, I know what I left, or when I made my decision, I was certain. There are others who are not certain about it. So having done a grand wedding, and then now I don't know what to tell them, whether baby number 2 is coming or not. They have no idea. We've not been living together. So it's an internal war manifesting in a cultural society that is shameless in asking those questions. They are not bothered whether you have eaten or not, but they are concerned where your ring is, which is majoring on the minor and minoring on the major. I find it really hard. And I think our society has the tendency of poking the wrong places. Oh, you're not married. You got divorced. You. So handling the society pressure in terms of shame and embarrassment. Kuja, come. I'll give you the tips of how you can be able to believe in yourself, learn more about yourself, such that people's questioning and does not trigger you into feeling of shame or embarrassed to answer, and also getting to place people where they belong. Because if someone can have the audacity of grinding you on your personal affair, it's possible to actually also let them know that was disrespectful, without anger outburst or without any reaction, so that you also don't give them power to feel that they can't control you where they feel. But it's society standards. And I don't know where they read these rules. You meet someone in a different county, they are reading from the same script. But anyway, it's generational. It's like freedom. They were passed on from
generation to generation. Yeah.
No take?
No, as I've said, the stigma, it's not really
legal.
It's not, the law does not have any bearing on the stigma that is placed on women, because
how do you show evidence?
And the Constitution provides that even as you're getting into the marriage, I believe it's Article 45 or 46. It provides that there's equality. The law does not view a man
male
was
or a
superior than a woman.
female.
You're both equal as you're getting into this marriage.
Also show evidence that actually there is stigma or there is shame. Just
There's
give
shame.
me evidence that there was.
No, actually, more often than not, it's women filing for the divorce than men. We should get the proper statistics, but personally, more women come to file for divorce as opposed to their counterparts. But as far as the law is concerned, it views both men and women the same. It strives to treat them the same in terms of even division of matrimonial property and all that. The law strives to create some sort of equality between the two parties. So there's no stigma from the legal perspective. However, I agree from the societal perspective, definitely, yes, there's stigma. Before a woman comes in to file for divorce, there's a lot of considerations she has to make. What are my parents going to say? What are my friends going to say? Because a lot of people are like my friends who've gone through divorce or people I know who've gone through divorce, they've lost friends because for some reason the society believes that if you hang out with a divorced woman, you'll also get divorced. There's that stigma.
Cultural belief.
Cultural belief. It's like it's contagious. And at that point, no one takes the time to actually try and understand why this person has gone through divorce. Maybe their relationship was not only toxic, but it was a danger to their own life. So you'd rather choose to be alive and thriving than remain in a marriage where
your life is in
danger. Yeah. So that would be my take.
I think culturally, we come from a place where men and women don't sit in the same level in terms of view, and one is seen more supreme than the other, and the women in this case then become even if you look at the traditional culture where the women carry more weight in terms of their work is giving birth, their work is doing house chores, it's societal kind of expectation more than what is expected or what it should be there. And as I think people are moving from that traditional practice of understanding to civilization from a place of you're a career woman, you're a mother, you can balance between your role as a wife and still be a CEO in your company. The culture aspect is shading off. Even the aspect of shame or embarrassment is also shading off. Why? Because they're finding their own identity. Like women, they're able to find their own identity and heal. So what they're fighting is their source of origin. Because who brought the dowry? Who are involved in the dowry negotiation? Those cultural. And I think that's where the shame comes in, because when you come and tell your parent you're divorcing, the first question they'll ask, what will I tell those, your negotiators, your uncles, you see it's taking back to the cultural. And maybe for them as parents, they may feel a sting of it, but maybe they understand why before we get to a place of divorce, they've had either parent meeting or they've had to rescue the children. The conflict that are there, in one way or the other, they've been involved or not. So it's from our source of origin. I was saying it is passed on from one generation to another. But I'm seeing a scenario where as you are embracing civilization and also we are getting to know ourselves, I don't think you will take through your children the same tradition that our grandparents had to go through. So you bring cows, they have to urinate in your... Do you think you're going to go through that?
I honestly don't know. That's something that my friends and I often discuss. We are the new adults, so we are the ones expected to see.
So now you're the cultural set pickers for your generations to come. So with time, I think it will fade away. The more we are getting education, understanding, and more self-awareness, I don't think we'll put through our children to the same.
And I think as a society, we need to get to a place where we no longer stigmatize women for choosing themselves, because at the end of the day, divorce is more or less a choice that a woman has to make for herself or has to choose herself. In the past, of course, there are considerations about, as you said, children. So what happens to the children if I divorce this man? A lot of people remained in marriages that were no longer serving them just for the benefit of the children.
But also, if you look at that time, the woman was not empowered. They were totally dependent on the provision. So if I move and these kids will not be educated, their father will not give a dime because I'm not there. So even for them that maintained an abusive or a toxic environment, and because they didn't have means, it doesn't mean then they were afraid of shame, or they were not empowered either financially or even with knowledge of what to go about. So today's woman being able to embrace that shame and actually say, you know what, I want to do better for my kids. They're setting pace for their children that they will also not stick in a toxic environment in the name of image or what people perceive or culture expectation that it should be a unit, then it should remain as it is. And being able to see we are differing in our relationship, we can walk our separate ways and still make our children experience both the mother and the father in the same setup.
Men benefit more from marriage. Women benefit more from divorce.
Debatable.
It's debatable. From a legal standpoint, again, I'll start from that. That's my point of departure. As I indicated, the Constitution recognizes both men and women are equal. Before they get married, when they're in the marriage, and even after the dissolution of the marriage, the law recognizes an equality between the two. The societal view, of course, it's different because the man greatly benefits from marriage. I agree with that point. From a society, not in my capacity as now a lawyer, but in the society that we live in, just because the women's role or a woman's role in a marriage or in society is to take care of the man, take care of the home, ensure that this is a haven for this man, so that he has the freedom, the grace to go out there, earn his keep, and provide for the family. In the generation that we are in right now, or in the current circumstances, in most households, both the man and the woman work. So both of them are out there earning their keep. But at the end of the day, the woman is still expected to make sure that the man is fed, his clothes are cleaned, they're ironed, his shoes are polished. I remember a while back there was a whole debate about Mishuki with a torn sock and all that. There was some backlash to his wife about not ensuring that his socks were in order. That was a while back. But anyway, that goes to show that at the end of the day, it's still, whether or not you're a doctor as a wife, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a therapist, a psychiatrist, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to take care of your man. So to that extent, yes, I believe the way the society has positioned the two, the men and women, you find that a man more or less benefits from the union. On the second leg of that statement, that women benefit from divorce, I would disagree. Because, as I said, what the law has strived to do, or what the legal system has strived for, is equality even in divorce. So you find that under the matrimonial properties disputes, and when you're dissolving property, matrimonial property, it's no longer a situation where the wife is entitled to 50% or the division will be 50-50. The point of at this point in time, the prevailing law is that you have to prove contribution, whether that contribution is financial or it's indirect. It's an indirect contribution. Yes. I know currently they're trying to find a way to estimate the value of the housewife to the GDP. So that would make it a lot easier when it comes to calculating indirect contribution. Because even as a stay-at-home mom, the value that you're bringing to that family, it should be taken into account, so that it's not just I provided 10% towards the purchase of this house, but how have I been taking care of it? I got the curtains. I'm the one who ensures that the lawn is watered, their flowers are planted. I take care of the kids, or I make sure the kids are taken care of. Because again, we live in a modern society where you might not be the one actually doing it, but you're the one in charge of ensuring that these things are taken care of. There's food on the table. So that's the type of indirect contribution that should be taken into account, or that is taken into account when there's division of matrimonial property. So the benefit that a woman would get would ordinarily be based on how she's able to prove contribution. So it's not a situation where the woman benefits just from marriage. I know someone had mentioned that there's a perception that some women marry men and then later divorce just so that they can get a share of their riches. But it's not black and white. It's not that just because I'm your wife, I should be entitled to 50%. You have to show some form of contribution. And you have to prove that it should actually be declared or be considered as matrimonial property. So yes, that would be my take.
Looking at it psychologically, men or women benefiting more from divorce, I think they're both hit parties. You're wounded emotionally, either you're a male or you're a female. Divorce does not spare. Actually, it even affects the kids. Yet they were not part and parcel of your disagreement in what you agreed on. So do women benefit more psychologically from a divorce? No, they are both wounded in one way or the other. Because I normally look at marriage as two parties that have been glued together. If you tear it apart, there will be a tear on both ends. So each of them is nursing their wound, whether from a mistake they did, or from a choice that the other person have chosen to, or from a contribution that they both played in bringing in. None benefits more from the other. But in cases of life was at risk, when you have rescued life from a place of a divorce, then whoever has been rescued then benefits more in that aspect. I think that statement either focused on either money or resources that you're looking at. I didn't have now because I'm divorced and I was married to someone who had. Now we have. The others who get married and they had, but life happens and the status at which they're in, they don't have. So they both don't benefit in it, whether financially but from a psychological point of view, it's a trauma. Actually, statistically, you'll find couples that were married and they divorced and they married again, chances of that marriage breaking again is higher than it was before. So is there benefit psychologically? They're both wounded. Unless they go through healing, the chances of getting into another marriage and getting bruised, because you're now more aware that something may go wrong. And some of them are all painted red. So the way you would say before, I would see red flags. Everything here now is red. So it's very hard to decide, am I on the right track or not? But when they go through healing, one can be able to now tell, what do I want? Where did I go wrong? What did I learn? What would I have done differently? How can I become a better version of me? First for me, before for someone else. But it doesn't benefit either. They both bruised.
Ending a toxic relationship is the best decision for your well-being.
I differ, because every toxic relationship has had an impact on you. It's like walking on thorns. So before you knew it was so toxic, it had an impact. It had pricked you severally. So ending it does not mean you've dealt with the thorns that are pricked when you are walking on that toxic environment. So ending is one way of actually preventing future injuries. But what you went through during that toxic environment need to be dealt with. Like, come, let's remove those thorns. whether it's a thorn of self-doubt, whether it's a thorn of second guessing, whether it's a thorn of not believing in yourself, whether it's a thorn of being gaslighted, whether it's a thorn of being made to do things because you're not seeing things in the other person's perspective, or people pleasing. Now, ending it, it's not the solution. Healing from it is a solution. Because now, if you don't heal from that toxic, you become toxic unaware. Why? Because you normalize your new walking. And I've used the example of walking in a thorny area as a toxic. Now you have ended a toxic environment, meaning you've stopped walking on a thorny area. But were the thorns that were pricked you that time removed? No. So with time, you start seeing people walking normally, and you start telling them, no, people walk like this. This is how you do. So because you've been in an environment where you've been criticized so much, without knowing, you realize you now point out criticism from all over. Like, oh, why did you do red? You would have done. It comes out as if you wanted the best out of that person. But what you don't realize is the toxicity from that manifesting. So you become a grooming area or a brooding area where now you become the toxic person. Is it the end of it that causes then? It's healing from it.
But wouldn't you say that moving away from that toxic situation or ending it would be the first step towards healing?
It's from what he has said, it's the... Please repeat what you just stated.
Ending a toxic relationship is the best decision for your well-being.
It's not the best. It's just the start. So healing from it is the best. Because when you say it's the best, it means then it's the ultimate thing that causes healing.
Okay. Because when I heard that statement, of course not, again, disclaimer, not a legal opinion, but yeah, my personal opinion is that I would believe that's the best, that it's the best step, because you're putting an end to the toxicity, and now from there, now you can move towards healing.
So if you were looking at it being the best step, that's okay. Why? Because a step means there's another one and another one and another. But if you're looking at it being the best thing, you're looking at it as being the ultimate healing. It's the ultimate thing that heals. But what you don't realize, it's the beginning of you becoming toxic. Because we normalize, because it's like we have said, I'm out of the wounds. So you're no longer focused on the danger that we would have termed was there. But what you don't realize is that the danger is already inside. Because if it is criticism, you start now criticizing yourself. Because those voices you used to hear from the toxic becomes now yours. I'll give an example. Grew up in a setup of a family where mom will actually say, meosha vyombo mkasahau kuosha nyumba. And you've done all the cleaning, well done, but you forgot to do this. It's a very simple statement. But if that repeated over time, the person start looking at what would they miss out. I did everything, but I forgot this. But what you don't realize with time, even you, away from now your parents' environment, you start seeing everything else done, but this one is not done. So without knowing, you are out of your parents' space where you are afraid, what will they notice this time around that is not done? But now you're in your own space, but now you're criticizing. That presentation was good, but so now the enemy becomes you. So is it the best thing? No. It is a first step. The best thing is to actually experience healing.
Okay.
It's like being rescued from fire. Being rescued from fire is not the best thing. Recovering from injuries is the best thing. It's the first step.
Okay.
Clearer?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's the best
step.
It's the best step. Yes.
Thank you very much, ladies.